Hi guys, welcome to a FaceHAMMER show. It's me, Rustaface, and I'm going to be talking about the Arcane Journal. It's gone on pre-order for the Dwarf Mountain holds for Old World in this show. Just give you an overview of what's in the book, some of my thoughts, go through some of the rules, just talk about it. So it's gone on pre-order now, so you can go to the Warhammer community website and see some stuff. There's been some almanac articles and some talks which are quite interesting. So this is what's gone up. So you've got the battalion with lots of these plastic dwarfs and gyrocopters in it. Transfer sheet, which is really cool. Really nice to have that. I think that's a really cool addition if you want to get a dwarf army together. Dice, cards, the book obviously, and then some characters. So you've got Ungrim Iron Fist. There's 3 characters in the journal basically. So you've got Ungrim Iron Fist, which is the Slayer King. He used to have the big cloak, the Drake Scale cloak. He hasn't quite got there yet. Then you've got these are really cool, these models. So the Dwarf Lord on shield bearers and foot, and I think you can make, and you've got this Thane with a handgun. So yeah, really nice models, these new ones. They kind of fit the old style, but they're also like modernized. I really like the shield bearers. I think that's really cool. It's nice to have those sort of some new dwarf models. You've got some classic models coming back. This was the old Forge World set that you could buy for a while, and then you've got some of the old metals. With this generation of dwarfs, I'm not really that keen on. These are kind of the older ones, which are called the Slayers. I'm not quite sure where they've got different coloured beards and hair, but you know, there you go. And then you've got the Slayer set. So this set here, this is like the really old school ones. I used to have loads of these metals. So yeah, they're really cool. So I'm really tempted to pick up some of these because I had a 4th dwarf army, 4th ed, and I lost a lot of it. I think I mentioned it before, but it got stolen, basically half of it. So I really want to get that back on the table. So there's these the plastic kit. I don't mind the hammerers, iron breaker set. I think they're pretty cool. I'm really not a big fan of these generic warriors. I don't know. I just really don't like them. They sort of come up, I think, with 7th edition with the Battle for Skull Pass and that sort of style. These sets are really cool. You know, I like these a lot. These are very classic. These are the old Marauder, like dwarf mercenary ones, the little pot bellies. They're really cool. There's some in this range, like crossbowmen and stuff. There's like a drunk crossbowman and the handgunners from that era. If they release those models for on the sort of made to order stuff, I'll be well excited about that because those are the models that I lost and I'd like to get back. So if I can, these came out. I remember Storm of Chaos back in, I think, 6th edition with Storm of Chaos, the Doom Seekers. So it's pretty cool. And then we've got the War Machines. So you've got your Goblin Hewer, which again was a Storm of Chaos thing. And then you've got the flame cannon, stone thrower, and a bolt thrower. I think the cannon's a plastic kit. I don't really like this generation of war machines, like the one before it when they had the wheels. The flame cannon, which was the big barrel, like big red barrel with the flame thing, that was for me. If they really, again, this is I want the sort of the older generation one. Whether we'll see it, I don't know. Got the Anvil of Doom as a classic, and this is really old school. This Bugman's cart and this horse. Look at this horse; it's so derpy. It's like a pit pony or whatever. Big Bugman's barrel, drunk dwarf. That's a very old kit. So that's the new releases for it, and there has been articles talking about things. The lore is pretty cool. So basically, they're talking about this time in the history, the dwarfs are kind of in an optimist phase where they're trying to reclaim their holds, and they kind of feel like they can re-expand and kind of like assert themselves. So there's a lot of hopefulness, and they're not as bitter, and like, you know, they're not as defensive. They're kind of looking at retaking rather than defending. So there's a scenario in the book which is all about them trying to retake an old engineering guild I think it's called a Carrick Vosk or something, which is, I'll get to that in a minute. But they want to retake that from orcs, and it's kind of a nice flip because it used to be the dwarfs in their mountain shuttering their doors defending, and this is kind of the dwarfs going back and trying to attack, which is quite interesting. So yeah, this is kind of an interview with JTY and Danny, and they talk about these sort of things. So there's obviously maps, so you can see that this a Kazid Vosk is where they're trying to go to retake it, and then you've got, you know, where they're leaving and where they're going, and it's pretty cool. Again, it's you've got your three main heroes in here. You've got Burlock Damison. This is before he's lost his arm. Ungry Iron Fist, and that's before he's got his cloak, and also Thorgrim before he becomes the Grudge Bearer. So and he's like a Thane and a scholar, so it's like the young Thorgrim. So this is quite cool for people who are fans. So the Burlock Damison used to have the big metal hand like pointing. He's obviously different now, and he kind of he's like the guy who keeps trying to get kicked out the engineering guild because he keeps messing around and doing crazy things, and it's not very dwarfish. He's a bit experimental. So I think the story in here is basically they're trying to send him off to get him out of where he is, because they're like, yeah, you need to go off and do something. Give him a chance to redeem himself, but also you know, get him away from blowing up their workshops or whatever. So he's kind of, that's kind of his story. And that he's trying to, you know, reassert himself, sort of living in his father's shadow a little bit. And then you've got Ungrim Iron Fist is kind of dealing with a dichotomy of having the Slayer vow, but also the King vow. So it's like, how can you do your king's duties, but you also need to fulfill your other vow? So you're going to let somebody down. So it's talking about his trouble trying to find a doom worthy of a king, and he's really going at it. So he's like being very aggressive. So that's pretty cool. So, you know, we got these three characters, and people who know the old world will know them in different forms, and I think that's a really interesting take on it. Yeah, so it's cool. So that's basically a bit of the background. I don't normally do a lot of background stuff, so I'm going to talk about the rules now. I did actually take some pictures of the art and stuff because it was really cool. So like, I really like this, you know, these kind of like color bits of the journals. So for people who don't know about the Arcane Journal sort of format of Old World, you've got your, when the game come out, you had your big, like, these are the good guys, these are the bad guys books with all the rules. So you got these main books, and then you get these journals, and the journals normally have a little story about like a battle leading up to a battle. There's some special characters, some alternate army lists, and lots of background. So if you're into your faction, this kind of like expands all stuff. It's a very nice book. I really like it. It's got a lot of good artwork in it, and yeah, it's very interesting. So, and what I like about it as well, it's not like, it doesn't feel like a lot of stuff to read. You just can have a little bit of a sit down and read the background. It gives you a flavor, but it's not trying to be an all expansive history of that race, and it's kind of filling in gaps. And I'm sure as more books come out and there's more interactions between them, we're going to get to see the world kind of fleshed out in a more organic way than just going, here is the big book of all the history, eat it, and then the next 10 years later, here's the next big chunk of the same history rewritten slightly. So hopefully there's going to be that evolution of what's going on. So I think for people who are into like the old world lore, you're getting this period of history which is a little bit dark and a little bit like, we don't really know. It's a bit like the Dark Ages, I guess, for us, is that it kind of, we're filling this world out, and it fits the setting, and you've got crossover, but it's also different, and I think that's really cool. So anyway, so I think there's some really cool stuff in here. Obviously, you've got maps, which is, you know, this is the realm of the dwarfs. So you've got the World Edge Mountains. You've got even Carrick has got a dwarf symbol on it because they've got the upper levels retaken. And you know, you've got all these different throngs. There's these sort of Carrick Hern and Carrick Izor. I say Barak Var, that was the port city. I'm trying to remember now. Yeah, as Ungol, and I think Zufbar by Blackwater. That was the that featured quite heavily in Shadow of the Horn Rat, the computer game. Or the Drakenhof. Karak Krodrin, which is the Slayer keep. So obviously you've got the Empire here. And one of the things that's quite funny is the dwarfs in this don't really understand why, like, the humans are infighting. They're like, why aren't you united? And that's kind of funny, because where they end up with the dwarfs being kind of scattered and kind of, self-serving in their own little remnant towns. It's kind of, they're almost in this phase of like, yeah, we're all united, we're building up, we're trying to get there, because the threat of chaos isn't really there. They haven't really got anything to keep them down, so they can focus on the greenskin threat and reclaiming their empire. So I think it's really cool time to be a dwarf, before it all gets really, really bad. So anyway, so what do you get in here? You get the royal clan. So in here, this is like your alternate army list. So you've seen these before. So you got like the mortuary cult for Tomb Kings and things like that. So in here, it says you've got 50% of characters. So you can have an Anvil of Doom, King or Thane. At least 25% must be on Royal Clan Warriors. That's a new unit entry. I was going to say War Scroll, but they're not War Scrolls. You know what I mean? So it's a new unit entry. So they're like better warriors, Longbeards, Quarrelers. And you have up to half your points can be on hammers and dwarf carts, not including miners carts. Dwarf carts is another new thing. And then you can take bolt throwers, grudge throwers, up to 3 of them in 1,000 points. And then you've got rangers, iron breakers, iron drakes. It says here up to 25% of your army can be spent on mercenaries. So Imperial Dwarf mercenaries, Doom Seekers, and the Goblin Hewer. So these are like your new units that are in this book as well. So this Army of Infamy is pretty cool. And then obviously you got the battle standard. So you also get some special rules. And we've got these here. So you get Ancestral Fury, which is when you charge 3 inches or more, or make a follow-up move, you get +1 strength. You also get extra 25%, 25 points on runes for characters and for standards, except of Royal Clan Warriors, who already have it included. So basically, you get plus 25 points on runes because they're so rich. They've got all these heirlooms and this stuff, so you can buy like really good combos. So it does unlock a lot of runic combos. Getting that extra 25 points is quite a big deal. Then you've got Striking a Grudge. So after deployment, before your first turn, you nominate a single enemy character, and then they're one that are in the Book of Grudges, and basically all friendly models get hatred against that character, and you get extra 75 victory points if you kill that character. So that's quite a good thing, because it kind of means that you can really deal with that problem hero that you're going to be probably focusing on anyway, but you get rerolls to hit, and you also get the chance to get those extra points. So cool little extra bonus rules. Then we've got the Mountain Holds Expeditionary Force. I'll go through the new units in a sec. So this one is kind of like your engineering sort of, it's kind of, this was like Burdock Damson's like army basically. So you have an engineer or engineer sapper. You have to have one. A demon slayer or dragon slayer, thanes and runesmiths. 25% must be spent on. You got warriors, thunderers, dwarf carts, rangers, scout gyrocopters. That's a new unit entry as well. Then you have 50% of your points may be spent on miners, scout gyrocopters and gyrocopters. 0 to 3 war machines, bolt throwers, grudge throwers, cannons, and rare 33%. So gyro bombers, slayers, war machines, organ gun, flame cannons. So there's a lot of guns in this one. Mercenaries, again, you can have 25% on mercenaries. You've got dwarf mercenaries, doom seekers, and goblin hewer. Again, they do have this misbehaving mercenary rule. So how much you want to invest in this stuff, I don't know. But that's the expeditionary force. So they also get some special rules. So you get expeditionary marksman. So 0 to 1 units of Thunderous per 1,000 points may be upgraded for 1 point a model. They don't take negative hit modifiers for moving and shooting. In addition, a Dwarf Engineer may be upgraded to a Expeditionary Marksman for 10 points. So it means you're not getting move and shoot penalty. So pretty good, for your guns. You got Function over Form. You must reduce the toughness characteristic of all the war machines by 1. So organ gun, cannon, flame cannon. And it loses its move or shoot special rule. Oh, okay. So they can move and shoot. So that's pretty cool that you've got these. You've got this mobile war machine stuff. That's quite cool. Subterranean ambush. If you include miners, you may put 2 32mm round mine markers plus 1 additional marker for each additional unit of miners anywhere on the battlefield that's not within the enemy deployment zone. 12 inches of another mine marker, 6 inches of enemy unit, 3 inches of a special feature objective marker. When the miners would arrive, put them anywhere on the battlefield within 6 of the mine marker, not within 6 of enemy unit. Unit cannot charge, counts having moved, otherwise act as normal. So you can like bring unit of miners up from the floor from these markers. It reminds me a little bit of this site. It came from below in the old game with the markers with Tomb Scorpions. There's no random element, there's no scattering, there's no misfiring. So that's pretty good, I think. I mean, that solves quite a big problem dwarves have about mobility. So the good thing about the expeditionary force, it seems to have a lot more mobility written into it, which has obviously been their bit of their problem. And gyrocopters are very good in the game, so having like different options and be able to take more of them is pretty solid. Let me just write this to put this the right way around. So we've got Thorgrim Ulrichson. He's a special character, so he's heavy infantry. He's got his stat line here. He's 250 points. And he goes, once he's set up the Grudge Stone, both he and the army he's joined replaces orcs and goblins' hatred with hatred everything. So he hates everyone. So during the start of turn subphase, Thorgrim may set the Grudge Stone. Once set, Thorgrim and any unit he's joined gains Unbreakable and automatically passes any panic tests. They cannot choose to flee as a charge action and cannot move other to give ground or to make follow-up or reform. So basically, you chuck a stone down and you stand on it and you're like, we're unbreakable, we're not going anywhere. And once he's done that, your whole army, just him and his unit get hatred of everything. So he's got the unit where you can like drop your stone down and go, yeah, we're plotting here, which is pretty cool. He's got heavy armor, he's got a 4-up ward against killing blow or any wound caused by attack that has multiple wounds. And he's got the Grudge Settler, which is his rune encrusted weapon. So it's strength +2, -1 AP, armor bane 1, magical. And it's got the Master Rune of Smiting and Master Rune of Parrying. So yeah, pretty cool. So he's interesting. We like him. Then we got Ungrim Iron Fist, the King of Karak Kadrin. So physical 9, wow. So he's 315 points. He's a heavy infantry again. He's got the Axe of Dargo and the Slayer Crown, light armor. He's got Death Blow, Grommal armor, hatred, immune to psychology, King of the Slayer hold, magic resistance, rallying cry, resolute, Slayer unbreakable. It says he may join a unit of hammers or a unit of slayers, even though he does not have the lone special rule. A unit of hammers joined by Ungrim gains the immune to psychology and unbreakable. Wow, that's good. If Ungrim Iron is taken as a general of, in addition, if he's taken as a general in a royal clan, then Demon Slayers and Dragon Slayers may be taken as character choices. 0 to 1 unit of Slayers per 1,000 points may be a core unit, and 0 to 4 Doom Seekers may be special. So that moves them out of the mercenary. Oh, that's really cool. So you can do like the Karak Kadrin Force using him. That's really good in Hammers as well. Like if he's in the Hammer unit. Yeah, I like that a lot. Unbreakable Hammer as well. When this model makes a wound roll, a 4-up is always successful. Regards to the toughness, that's quite good. I mean, toughness is kind of king in Old World. It's kind of better than armor save in many cases. So being able to always wound on a 4+, Yeah, he's got 4 attacks, so that's pretty decent. He's also got Monster Slayer on his weapon, -3 AP. Strength 2 apparently, but it's fine because he always wins on a 4, right? So strength 2. That's funny. So yeah, but that's strange. Not seen that before. It's making me go, huh? Huh? And the Slayer crown, so he's got his armor values improved by 2, so he's got 4 up. In addition, he's got a 5 up ward. So he's only got 3 wounds, so he might be a little bit squishy. But obviously weapon skill 9 and he's toughness 6, so he's not going to be that easy to hit and wound. His initiative 5 as well, which is not terrible. Yeah. I wonder if as long as he remains with the units, yeah. So if you kill him, they would lose the unbreakable special rule. Sorry, I was talking and I went into my own head. I was just wondering if they remained unbreakable if he wasn't in the unit, but no, it's only if he's in the unit they're unbreakable. We got Burlock Damison. So he again is heavy infantry, and no surprises. Only 85 points. He's got the Furnace Hammer, Rivet Gun, and heavy armor. Magic resistance. He's got prepared positions, range, finding optics, resolute, stand back, chief, stubborn. So prepared positions is during deployment, entrench a single non-character model whose troop type is War Machine, and a single unit of Quarrelers or Thunderers. Entrench unit is behind cover and defending a low linear obstacle, and if they move, they're no longer entrenched, so it's a bit like defensive spikes. Range finding optics. Unless he's fleeing or engaged in combat once per turn during the shooting phase, a friendly unit of Quarrelers, Thunderers, or Dwarf War Machine may re-roll any hit rolls of a natural 1 or re-roll a single artillery dice. That is really good. And it says, in addition, Burlock and any unit he's joined do not take -1 for shooting at long range. So that's really, really good. If he's in like a unit of Thunderers, especially if you're in that engineering army, because they're not getting any negatives for moving and shooting and no modifiers for range. And they can re-roll 1s. Yeah, that's really strong. That is really good. That's going to make that unit really scary. Then it says stand back chief. A character with special cannot be targeted by shooting or spells whilst within 3 inches of a unit type who's War Machine. It's got the Furnace Hammer, which is strength star. Quite short. -2 and flaming attacks. I'll roll an artillery dice to determine his strength. If a misfire is rolled, he loses a wound. I guess that might be how he loses his hand at some point. Who knows? Rivet Gun is 10-inch range, strength 3, -2, armor bane 1. It does D3 wounds. That's pretty good. Like, I mean, BS5 as well. I mean, he's only got 2 wounds, but he adds so much to a unit, and you can protect him with that stand back chief. Reroll an artillery dice on a War Machine as well. His command range is 10 inches, so it's quite big. Yeah, I like him a lot. I mean, he's cool. So we've got some new units. So you've got Dwarf Sappers, which are basically they're only 1 unit size is 1. So they're like I think they're kind of like an engineer, like a character, basically. Yeah, they're a character. There you go. 70 points. So you can take pistols, great weapons, handguns. Can have runes up to 50 points, and they've got the dig-in rule. Magic resistance, resolute, stubborn, all kind of dwarfy rules. And it says you can lead their unit in the digging of some field works, and they can become entrenched, basically. So he can basically take a leadership test on 9, and if he passes it, they get entrenched. That's pretty strong. So an enemy unit that ends its movement within command range must take a dangerous terrain test. So yeah, that's interesting when they've like mined the floor or something. So Doom Seekers, they're 50 points for 1. And they may catch as weapon moves up to 50 points. Weapon skill 5, strength 5. They got 2 wounds, but 2d3 attacks. They've got Death Blow, which I think when they die they can attack. A few other their rules. So Doomseeker, end of the battle, Doomseeker that is slain is worth no victory points. If he's alive, the enemy wins a number of victory points equal to his points cost. So you got to get him killed in the game. That's funny. That's interesting because as the opponent, you're like, I don't want to kill him. First, he's only movement 3. I mean, it does increase his maximum charge by 3 inches, and when it makes a charge roll, adds plus D3 to the result. So they can go a bit further than normal. Bit like Swift Stride, isn't it? He's got Whirlwind of Death. Impact hits caused by this model are resolved using the profile of his whirling blades. In addition, when he makes a win roll of 4+ is always a success regardless of toughness. So that's that Slayer rule, basically. Also, impact hits D3 + 1. There you go. Interesting. Dogs of War. 0 to 3 Doomseekers may be taken as mercenaries in any of the Grand Empire and Dwarf Mountain holds. So these are like our first kind of mercenary unit that we always looking at things going, how do mercenaries work? I think this is the first one. There might be one in the Orc and Goblin book. I've not looked at that. We'll be doing a show on that at some point. So then you got your Royal Clan Warriors. So these are your like infantry plus. I don't know, obviously, what difference they have. You can have Drilled, Stubborn, Veteran. 0 to 1 unit can. You put 1,000, so in 2,000 points, you probably let it take 3 units of these. So the champion can take runic weapon runes and talismanic runes. And then you can have up to 75 points on standard runes. That's pretty good. Heavy armor, resolute, shield wall. You've got Gromwell Great Axe is strength +2 -3 strike last. So nice. So it could be arming hammer models with a mix of hand weapons and shields or 2-handed axes rather than the customary great hammers. Also, you don't have to use those derpy plastics. So yeah, it might tempt me to do a dwarf army. Then you've got Imperial Dwarf Mercenaries. And these guys have got you can take great weapons, thrusting spears, crossbows, handguns. So these are kind of like your generic dwarf mercs. So, and I think these again can be taken in an Empire army. So you can put your dwarf handgunners in an Empire army. That's really cool. And again, they can have weapon runes. 0 to 1 per 1,000 can have Drilled Veteran, can have 50 points. Yeah, so they're basically just dwarf mercs, which is really cool because it opens up having this unit that's quite flexible, and you can put them in. They're kind of, because they're veterans, or they're drilled, and you get option to the runes. It's quite interesting for Empire armies. Dwarf carts. These are weird. They're a light chariot. They could be the Bugman's cart or a miner's cart. You have to have one of them. So they've got the open order impact hits resolute. It says during the command phase of their turn, any units not fleeing or engaged in combat that's in 6 of a Bugman's cart gains +1 to its movement. Okay. So you can make your army move a bit faster because they're rowdy. It's not cumulative, so you can't like stack it. But that again, if you're trying to get up the table and getting +1 move, that's a big deal. Miner cart. So any dwarf units within 3 inches of the miner's cart's not fleeing may make a stand and shoot reaction as if it was equipped with blasting charges. C26 of Forces of Fantasy, which I will show that in a sec. Actually, I think I've got that. I can show you that. And it says, additionally, when a miner cart loses its last wound, roll a d6. On a 4+, it explodes, and every unit within 3 takes d6 strength 3 hits with AP -1 on flaming attacks. And it says any army using the Dwarven Mountain Hold's Grand Army competition may include 0 to 4 carts as rare choices. 65 points. So one of them allows you to do stand and shoot reactions, and the other one and it explodes, and the other one allows you to get movement. Yeah, interesting. I don't know how many they'll feature. I mean, it is movement 6 as well because it's a chariot. It does do some impact hits. Strength 4. So you've got 3 wounds and a 5 up save, but yeah, I don't know how often you'll see them, but it's quite nice if you want to. It's trying to sort of fix some of the issues dwarfs have. You've got like one list that leans into being more defensive and shooty. You've got another one that allows you to be more aggressive with infantry blocks, and that's quite a cool idea. You got, and it does open up a lot of options. And you've got scout gyrocopters. These are great gyrocopters, just generally. So this one's a toughness 4 gyrocopter, I think it's slightly lower toughness. 3 wounds, 60 points. You can have up to 2 in a unit. It's got a clatter gun, lightly armored fuselage. It's heavy armor, so I think it's got a worse save. Extended formation, fire and flee, fly 10, hatred, hit and run, impact hits, magic resistance, skirmishes, swift stride, vanguard. While in skirmish, every model must move in 3 inches rather than 1. And it says, should it win a round of combat, a unit with special may choose to fall back in good order rather than making a follow-up or pursuit move. That's quite interesting. And it's got this clatter gun, multiple shots, D6 quick shot. And it is 24-inch range, strength 4, -1 AP, dwarf crafted. So it says the regular gyrocopters assembled using the canyards and tail from the gyro bomber in place of the usual canyards with bombs, and a clatter gun in place of the steam gun. So yeah, it's kind of cool. You can make this like little scout gyrocopters. They get vanguard. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I don't know enough about dwarfs to know how good that is or if it's better or not. But yeah, I mean, it seems fairly cool. Goblin Hewer, which is probably the thing that most people are excited about. So it's a 120-point war machine. It's got Slayer crew. We have engineering rooms up to 50. It's got hatred, orcs and goblins, like all dwarfs. Immune to psychology, magic resistance, skirmishes, unbreakable. So it's 36-inch range, strength 4, -1, armor bane, cumbersome move or shoot, whirling doom. So it says that with a salvo of spinning axes, roll an artillery dice before making any hit rolls. The number of shots fired is equal to the artillery dice plus a D3 modifier. It says per rank if the Goblin Hewer is in the front rank, on per file. So I think you get D3 plus per rank. So if they had like 2 ranks, you'd roll 2D3 and add it to the... Yeah, that would make sense. It says, however, if a misfire is rolled, no shots are fired and a critical fault has occurred, and you roll on the misfire chart. Any army using Dwarven Mountainhold's Grand Army includes 1 or more Slayers of Legend, may include a 0-1 Goblin Hewer per 1,000 points as a rare choice. And it uses the stone for a misfire chart. Quite interesting. It's not quite a decent range on it as well, but that could be pretty nasty, especially if it got in the side of something. Like, it would just chew infantry to pieces, which I guess is kind of the point. Is it only BS free? So shots fired. So you would have to roll to hit. And I'm just trying to think. So you will have a range modifier and stuff. So yeah, it's interesting. Then we've got the runic tattoos. So this is sort of the Slayer cult runes. So they sort of had the same rules as runes, so you can't be duplicated, and no 2 characters can have the same combination. And you've got Doom Seekers may have up to 3 runic tattoos. Demon Slayers may have 2. Dragon Slayers may have a single one. So it says Rune of Dishonored. Demon and Dragon Slayers only. Once a model with this is reduced to their last wound, they get a 3+ ward save. However, at the end of the battle, the model with this runic tattoo that has been slain is worth no victory points. If it's alive, the enemy player wins a bonus equal to 100% of its cost. So that's the same rule that the Doom Seekers have got, basically. The Rune of Endless Battle. During the combat phase of any turn which a model with this runic is charged, Every attack it makes that causes an unsafe wound allows it to make one additional one. Then you got the Rune of the Reckless, Frenzy, +1 to their hit rolls, but also they get +1 hit against him. Then Rune of the Hateful gains hatred all enemies. That's really good. It's just rerolls the hit. It's just perfect. Rune of Grit, +1 to your toughness. Toughness is king. Like having high toughness is great. Very strong. Rune of the Dauntless, always issue and accept challenges, and it may reroll hit rolls. Then Rune of Wrath, +1 to your attacks. Warrior's Rune, +1 to your weapon skill. And Rune of Blazing Fury, and it has flaming attacks for 5 points. So some cool options there to have some extra runes for your Slayers, which is quite interesting. Nice to get a defensive one in there or two. Then the Engineer's Weapon runes. They can be on a crossbow or handgun. That's quite interesting. So you've got the Master Rune of Slaying. So making a roll to wound against an enemy whose troop top is Behemoth is always on a free up, regardless of toughness, and it has multiple wound D3. So it's an anti-monster rune. That's pretty good. Rune of Piercing, +1 strength, and fires like a bolt thrower. Well, that's cool for 40 points. Then you got Master Rune of Bursting Flame. If the hit roll successful, they take 2d3 hits rather than 1. So that's like firing a little incendiary explosive shell. Rune of Concussive Force. A unit hit by this attack gains Stupidity. Wow. That's also pretty cool. Rune of Accuracy. You don't take any negative to hit modifiers. Rune of Rapid Fire gives multiple shot 2 and quick shot. Rune of Molten Steel, Flaming Attack special rule. And the Enchanted Rune, Magical Attacks special rule. So you follow all the normal rules for runes. So you've got the rule of 3, I think it is, the rule, the rule of jealousy and all that. So you can combo some of these up. Obviously, I think master runes you can only have one because they're master, so you couldn't like put these two together. But it's cool that you could put this on as well as one of these others. Rune of Rapid Fire, to give them more chance to hit, or Rune of Accuracy. So you could do some cool stuff. I think having been able to have like a blinged out crossbow or handgun is just very dwarfish and very cool. Yeah, I like that a lot. I think that adds a lot. There's a lot of options added to the dwarf army from this journal. I think it really does. And there's a lot of stuff in here that just goes on the normal dwarf army, like having the mercenaries as well, and it also expands empire. So I think that's great. I really like this book. I mean, I'm a bit of a fan of dwarfs in the old days, like lore-wise, and I really like the fact that it's kind of cast the dwarf in a new light. I think it's really cool, this book. I mean, I think it's awesome that there's a lot of options in here. You've got cool stuff if you play Empire, if you're playing a normal dwarf list. You've got some new units which are sort of modifications of the previous ones. You've got slightly better warriors that you can use. I think you've got some more runes. You can bling stuff out. I really like the idea that the dwarfs are in this like optimistic phase, and they're not these bitter, grudge-filled alcoholics living in their mountains, although they're still dwarfs. But I like the fact that they're going out there and trying to reclaim stuff. So it's a little bit more positive. There's a bit of movement baked into it. Which I think makes the army a little bit more interesting to play on the table, because that was always the problem I had with dwarfs. They always felt a little bit too static and too defensive. So I think this really adds a lot of character whilst retaining the feel of dwarfs, and also there's some really, really cool stuff. Doomseekers are cool, the Goblin Who is cool, and the Slayer King. It's all really interesting. I think this is going to be quite a popular faction. I mean, dwarfs have been quite well anyway at events that I've been to, but this is really, really interesting. It's kind of getting you sort of G'd up for doing a new dwarf army. I've always loved the bearded ones back in the day, and if they release those made to order classic Marauder models like those handgunners and things like that, or the old flame cannon, I'll be all over it, because I I just really love the character of those models, and I think there's a lot going on here. The new plastic characters or resin characters are amazing. I really like what we've seen so far with the shield bearers. We haven't seen a Burlock Damison model. I don't think. I don't know if there is one, but I really hope there is at some point. Just having a quick look. So we've just seen the Fane, the shield bearers, Ungrim, Iron Fist, and we haven't obviously seen a model for Grim. So whether or not there will be models for those, I'd hope so. I mean, we've got a couple special characters that don't have models in other books. I think there's a Bretonian guy who doesn't have a model. I might be wrong, but I would like to see those. But I think this Arcane Journal is really cool, and I think maybe the impact of the Tomb King and the Brett one didn't feel that big because they came out at the same time, so you just kind of took it as an encompassed thing. I think because people have had the dwarf list from January and they've been playing with it and we've played against it, then you kind of feel, oh, that's dwarf. So then getting something like this later on is really refreshing, and allows you to then take your army in a different direction if you wanted to, and paint some new stuff. And I think that's a really kind of encouraging sign to how Old World might build on factions. And if you're doing this ad hoc sort of journal approach, like almost like little updates, I think that's a really cool way of doing it, rather than in the old days when you waited like 10 years for a new army book or a new edition. You get some life breathed into your faction, and they should be a little bit more agile with these to be able to do these little supplements more often or more frequently, and just hit the high notes of things that they think they need to have that in the list, or to improve the faction, or just to inject some new life into something you play. So, I think that's awesome. I can't wait to see what's happening with the Warriors one. As people know, that's what I've been playing. So I hope you enjoyed the show. That's my overview of the Dwarven Mountain Holds book. You can go and pre-order it now. If you want to support me, you can do it through Element. Click the link below. Other ways to support me there. In terms of, there's obviously Pro Painted affiliate, so if you want to pick up your Arc site and things like that. There is an event going on in Portsmouth in a few weeks, in August 10th, 11th for UG Hobbies. I did put a link on that on a previous video. I will put another link to that. There's still tickets available. That's 2,000 points Old World. And yeah, I'm going to be there. Hopefully there'll be more people there to play. It's in the old South Coast GT venue in the south of England. That should be a nice weekend. I'm really looking forward to that. I was going to paint Tomb Kings for that. I just haven't had time with what's going on in my personal life, which is why I've not released any content. And I'll put this at the end of the video, so if you can move on if you want, but if you want to know why or what's going on. So I'm not going to go into too much detail, but my partner was involved in a medical incident which caused her a blackout on a bike, not a motorbike, a push bike, but she hit her head. She was in hospital. I was in there for a week. She came out. She's had to have a recorder put in her chest. We still don't really know what caused it, but it looks like it's a heart issue. So she can't drive now, so I'm doing all of that. And then I had a mother here for a week over from Ireland, and we've spent, it's been a lot of family time. So when I sort of said, oh, I'll go back on the horse now, my missus literally fell off her horse, and then we've got these issues. So everything's fine. I'm fine. Everyone's all right. And I should be getting back to doing hobby content and some Old World content. Cool. Thank you very much for watching. I'll catch you all the next one, and I hope you have a great weekend, and I'll speak to you soon. Cheers, guys. See ya.